So everything feels fine until it doesn't. You are trying to get out of the door, but your child is lost in play, and suddenly that familiar wave rises in your chest. Frustration, pressure, the urge to control, and that right there is the moment where discipline with connection really begins. Here's what I've come to understand. Connection-based discipline, or positive discipline, gentle parenting, however you want to call it, isn't about never losing your cool. It's actually noticing the storm that's building inside of you before it turns into a thunder. It's about understanding what's actually happening in your brain and your body so you can shift, so you can regulate and lead with calm instead of control. And that's exactly what we're going to dive into today. So grab your coffee, maybe your journal, and get ready to take some notes because this one's going to be really, really good. So let's dive in. Okay, so when I talk about discipline with connection, I am not talking about being calm all the time. I am talking about being aware. And there's a huge difference. Calm can feel impossible when we're under stress, right? But awareness, that is something that you can actually practice. For me, it starts with noticing the signal. Let me give you an example of how it looks for me. My shoulders just get tense. I'm feeling out of breath. And then I have this feeling here in the middle of my chest that just like races. It's kind of like my frustration is physically growing inside my chest. It's my body's way of saying, I am about to lose it. That's my cue to pause. And that pause, just for a few seconds, helps me switch from my amygdala, the fight or flight part of the brain, to my prefrontal cortex, the part that helps us think clearly, stay grounded, and make good decisions. Now, if you listened to the last episode, we talked about how the brain goes into survival mode and how stress triggers the amygdala, shutting down the calm, the logical part of the brain. So I'm not going to go into deep about the science today, but if you haven't heard that one yet, go back and listen it because it is an amazing episode to understand how our brain works when we feel just so triggered. Today, instead of diving into neuroscience and how our brain works, let me instead paint you a picture. A real morning in my house, okay? This is a real story. It was one of those days when we are already running late. My coffee is half drank, the shoes are missing, and I say, Abby, it's time to go. She didn't even look up, she was just sitting on the floor, singing her little songs, just playing with her dolls, completely in her own little world. I said it again, nothing. Said it again, nothing. And then I said it again a little louder. And I felt the familiar frustration starting to climb up on my chest. And that's what we're going to talk about today. The everyday collisions between our adult agendas and our kids' little world, and what discipline with connection actually looks like when moments like this happen. Here's what I've learned after hundreds of toddler moments with my baby. The thing that you think it's the problem, it really isn't the problem. That morning with Abby, when she refused to put on her shoes, the frustration bubbling in my chest wasn't about the shoes. It wasn't really about her at all either. It was about my fear of losing control. I have an important meeting to make it to. I'll have to come back right back. I'll fall behind. Everything will pile up. And then I'll be even more overwhelmed. It's like this snowball moment where one tiny delay starts to feel like proof that the whole day it's gonna go to shit. And that's the real problem. Not her defiance. It's my panic that everything's about to spiral out of control. Now, on the other hand, Abby wasn't defying me to make my life harder. She was just in her own little world. Singing, exploring, playing, being four. But in that moment, her calm just crushed with my chaos. Her refusal triggered something deeper, that fear of not having it together. That story I sometimes tell myself about failing as a mom. When my brain interprets her behavior as my failure, that's when connection starts to slip. The truth is that our agendas rarely match. I'm trying to meet the clock and she's trying to meet a need, to finish her song, to stay in her rhythm, to feel free. And when those collide, my instinct used to be to point fingers, complain, or get louder, to speed it up so I can feel back in control. But after learning more about myself and how my reactions are tied to what is happening inside me, I can see that this idea of discipline with connection is really about noticing what's underneath for both of us, her feelings and mine. When I catch myself in that moment, I realize I have a choice. I can see her behavior as defiance, or I can see it as an invitation to pause, to understand what's really happening between both of our reactions, and an invitation to choose connection over control. And when I can choose to see it that way, I can guide her with calm and intention. And I say when I can, because there are times when I don't. Sometimes by the time that I notice what's happening, it's already too late and I've already lost it. And that's okay. We're going to talk about that too. Because sure, this all sounds great in theory, but real life is messy. And I will unpack that too. But for now, let me tell you exactly what happens next. So we're running late. Abby's playing. She's in her own world. She's singing her song. I already asked 3 times, Abby, put your shoes on. She just kept ignoring me. So instead of me saying, Abby, hurry up, I simply went down on my knees and I told her, hey, you really don't want to stop playing, huh? And she looked at me. She was still with her doll in her hand and she said, I want to finish my song. That was it. One sentence and my whole body relaxed. Because when I listened, I realized that she wasn't trying to make things hard for me. She just had a different agenda. I had a need, we need to leave, but she had one too. She wanted to finish her song. That little moment of empathy let me see things through her lens. It shifted the entire tone from power struggle to partnership. So I told her, how about this? You sing your song while I help you put your shoes on. And guess what? She thought it was a great deal. So she did. And we got to leave on time. Both of us smiling. This was such a small moment, but that's the heart of discipline with connection. Now let's talk a little about boundaries because I know this is a big one. Notice that this didn't erase the boundary. We still had to leave, but it brought us back to each other first. The boundary, we need to leave in 5 minutes, didn't change. What changed was how we handled it. Because empathy is not giving in. Empathy says, I understand how you feel. While giving in says, I'll change all the rules to make you happy. And that's never the goal. So the boundary stays, but the energy changes. And notice this, I didn't start with the behavior. I didn't say, Abby, put your shoes on right now. That's what I did before, and clearly it didn't work. So I tried something different. I started with her emotion. I met her where she was first. And that's where co-regulation begins. Co-regulation is what happens when our nervous systems communicate before our words do. On one side is what allows us to calm our child through our own steadiness. On the other hand, it's what allows their calm to help us regulate too. It's a shared rhythm. My calm helps her calm, and her calm helps me calm. It's this beautiful loop that settles both nervous systems at once. And that's the moment that we can reconnect. Now, this is a double-edged sword because it works both ways too. If I'm anxious, my daughter feels that energy instantly, and then she feels anxious. And her anxiety only amplifies mine. We feed off of each other's state, which is why regulation isn't about calming them, it's about calming ourselves first. Now, sure, if we can help them calm, then we will feel calmer. But the thing is that we're not in control of that. We can't control how other people regulate, right? What we can do is take ownership for it and then learn how to regulate ourselves so that they can feed off of our energy. Dr. Dan Siegel says that connection builds the brain's capacity for self-control. That means that when we connect first, their nervous system feels safe enough to cooperate. So when I connect first, instead of demand something from her, when I say, hey, you're having a hard time letting go, and I get it, instead of you're not listening, I am helping her nervous system feel safe enough to feel that she can cooperate with me. Kids will cooperate much easier if they feel safe enough to do it. So important. And that comes with connection and empathy. And that's where this story shifts into something way deeper. Because once we understand that connection builds regulation, the science behind it becomes even more fascinating. So let's move into that next. Everything that happened in that small moment with Abby, the little pause, the empathy, the calm tone, it's not just emotional intelligence. It's biology in motion. When a parent yells or threatens, the child's body releases cortisol and adrenaline. Those are the stress hormones. Their heart rate spikes, their brain goes into defense mode, and the part responsible for learning and memory literally shuts down. So while they might comply in the short term, they don't actually learn self-control. They learn to avoid pain or disapproval. Unfortunately, when I yell, they listened. I mean, sure, they do, but what they're responding to is fear, not understanding. They're just doing it because they want to avoid something, not because they're actually learning self-regulation. They're obeying to make the discomfort stop, not because they internalize the lesson. And that's why those same behaviors often come back later, because compliance from fear doesn't teach emotional regulation. It teaches survival. But when we connect first, when we validate and stay steady, we activate oxytocin, the bonding hormone. So it lowers both our stress responses, helping their brain move from danger, say what she says, otherwise I'm not safe, to safe. I will cooperate because I feel safe to do it. And that is a huge difference. That's where real learning and real discipline happens. And that's kind of the science behind this idea of positive discipline or gentle parenting that everybody's talking about. Because the beautiful thing that's happening is that love and structure are working together to build a healthy brain. Connection-based discipline helps the brain mature. It builds empathy, emotional regulation, and trust, the foundations of lifelong emotional health. And if you think back to the beginning of this episode, it ties right back into the pause that we talked about. The moment that we shift from our amygdala panic to our prefrontal cortex calm, that same brain region we're regulating in ourselves is the exact one we are helping develop in our children through connection. And that's not just theory. Studies from Harvard Center on the Developing Child and the APA show that secure connected parenting strengthens neural pathways in the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that manages impulses and focus and problem solving. So yes, science shows that love and structure literally rewires the brain. Every time we stay calm instead of react, every time we connect before correcting, we are reshaping both our child's brain and our own brain. It's those tiny real moments of connection that build the kind of relationship where growth, not fear, becomes the foundation. Now let's be honest, this work is not easy. If you were raised in a home where yelling or punishment were the norm, this kind of parenting might feel like it's learning a new language. And for the moms who are listening who think, okay, this sounds great, but I don't think this woo-woo stuff will ever work for me, I get it. Because guess what? I used to think the same thing. That was my case. I wasn't raised in an environment where calm communication was modeled. Not at all. I grew up as the older daughter, the one expected to be responsible, polite, and perfect. I learned to perform, to keep peace, to not take up space. So when I became a mom, my default was control. My default was I need to fix, I need to manage, to make it all look okay. But inside, I was so overwhelmed. Inside, I was so scared. Inside, I was a burnout. Inside, I didn't want to do all those things to keep everyone happy. I wanted to put myself first for once, but I never do it because I rather do what everybody else wanted me to do. Otherwise, I would feel guilty, and that guilty feeling, it's very shitty. So learning to pause and breathe and respond with empathy didn't come natural to me. It took time. It took failure and lots of repetition. But the beautiful thing is that self-regulation is a skill. And like every skill, it can be learned through practice, through patience, through doing it over and over and over again. Think of it like learning to walk. When you're first born, you know nothing about it. You just start like little by little realizing that, holy cow, I have legs. And then you start playing with your little toes. And then you're like, let me see what I can do with these things. And then you kind of like try to stand up, but you fall, right? And then you're like, yeah, let me try something easier. And then you start crawling a little, then you start pulling yourself up, and then you give your little first steps. And in those moments, you have to think every single step. It's not natural yet, but then you start walking, and then you start running, and then you never stop running. And then it becomes second nature. Then you don't even think about it. I mean, you walk all the time and you never think like, oh my God, I have to put one foot first and then the other one. No, you're just doing naturally. That's the same thing that happens with self-regulation. In the beginning, you're going to be like, whoa, I have to pause. What? What is that? But then you're like, you do something, you make a mistake, and then you look back into it and you're like, I could have done this differently. Let me try again. And then you try again. And then you try again. And by the 100th time that you try, you just do it naturally. And the beautiful thing is that you are breaking a cycle, right? Like for you, it's not easy. For you, it takes time. For you, you have to practice and learning. You have to change your neural pathways and create new ones. The beautiful thing is when we do these, when our children, is that they haven't created those neural pathways yet. So when we do it and they're learning naturally from us, for them it's gonna be second nature. And that's the beautiful thing of this. So if you were wired for survival like me, here's the truth. If I can rewire these, you can too. Now here's the thing. It's not about being calm all the time. It's about catching yourself faster and coming back sooner. And that's emotional growth. Now, this example with the shoes, that was a good day for me. I mean, I'm very proud of it, right? But not every moment looks like that for me. Let me give you another example. A few days ago, I was trying to get dinner on the table, and Abby was asking questions nonstop, and I felt my patience slipping. I snapped. I saw her face change, and instantly my heart sank. And I said, I'm sorry, Abby. I feel very rushed, but that's not your fault. And she looked at me and she smiled and she's like, it's okay, mommy. Don't worry. You can try again. That moment right there, it's called repair. And repair is the heartbeat of connection-based discipline. Because the truth is that thing called positive discipline is not at all about being perfect. It's about what you do next. Real discipline isn't about never losing your cool. It's about how we reconnect after we do. Repair is where growth happens for both of us. When I take a breath and I say, I'm sorry I raised my voice, what I'm really doing is teaching my daughter how to own mistakes without shame. Now, repair isn't just an apology. It's a process. It's reflection, accountability, and change all rolled into one. It's saying, I love you enough that I want to do better next. I can talk about repair for hours, so we're going to leave it for another episode. So make sure to subscribe to the podcast if you are interested on learning more about repair. But, repair is a commitment to pause and check in with yourself. It's a commitment to apologize when you get it wrong. It's a commitment to reflect on what happened and to actually follow through on doing it differently next time. And that's how trust is built, one honest moment at the time. And this is the most important part of gentle parenting, the coming back. The willingness to repair when you break connection. Because gentle parenting was never about staying calm 24/7. I thought that was what I was supposed to do. I mean, I saw all the YouTube videos and all these moms were giving me all these scripts and everything looked perfect. And they show these kids just behaving perfectly, and I was, holy cow, how am I gonna do this? So whenever something bad happened or something that triggered me or I didn't respond in the way that I thought, I was like, I'm failing at this thing. When that was never the case. That's not the point. Gentle parenting was never about staying calm 24/7. It's about returning to connection when you're not. And that commitment to come back again and again and again, that's what makes positive discipline so powerful. And that's why I'm so passionate about it. And when we do come back, our kids are watching closely. They're not learning from the calm moments when everything feels easy. I mean, they are. But they're also learning from the messy moments, the moments when we choose to do it differently, when we choose to repair, the moments when we own our tone, take a breath, and then try again. That's where the real teaching happens. Our children don't learn from our perfection. They learn from our behavior, from how we handle stress, how we apologize, how we move forward after we messed up. They're learning what it means to be human and to make things right. And the beautiful thing is, every time I pause before reacting, I'm not just helping Abby regulate her emotions. I'm also reparenting myself, because that little girl inside me, the one who thought that love had to be earned, she's watching now too. And she's finally learning that love doesn't depend on performance. That's what this work is really about. Not perfect kids or perfect mom, but breaking cycles gently and consistently, one messy, beautiful moment at a time. The whole idea of this episode is to show you how discipline with connection shows up in those micro moments, not in the picture perfect ones. It's in the pause before the reaction, the deep breath before the lecture. It's saying, I know you wanted to keep playing, but we have to go now. Let's do it together. It's remembering that your authority doesn't come from fear. It comes from safety. That is huge, because I had this mom the other day, I was coaching her, and she was telling me how frustrated she felt because she wanted to feel respected by her stepdaughter. And I thought that was fascinating, because we have this idea of we need to be harsh to be respected or to have authority. And the reality is there are actually two ways. You can do it that way and then create a relationship based on fear, or you can do it through connection and create a beautiful relationship based on safety. Because every single day you get hundreds of chances to model what self-control, empathy, and love looks like. And every one of those moments counts. This is the real work, the slow, lifelong kind. But that's the kind that changes everything. Discipline with connection doesn't mean being permissive either. It doesn't mean chaos. It means boundaries with empathy. It means understanding that when our children push limits, they're not testing us. They're testing the safety of their relationship. And when we stay steady, when we hold that space with calm leadership, we teach them what safety feels like. We're not the thermometer reacting to the temperature of our child's emotions. We are the thermostat. We set the tone, and our calm regulates the whole room, guiding them back to balance, even when everything feels heated. So mama, next time you feel the heat rise in your chest, pause. Feel your feet on the ground. Take a breath. This is your moment to reset, to find your center again. Every time you choose to slow down, you are creating space for calm to grow. Remember, perfection isn't the goal. Having grace for your child and for yourself is. And if you are listening to this and thinking, I want to be able to do that, I want to feel calmer, more confident, and less alone in this, that's exactly what the family is for. The family is our exclusive community where moms like you and me come together to practice this tool. We share the real life moments and remind each other that we don't have to do motherhood alone. We get to grow through it together. So if you're craving that kind of space, a place to feel supported, seen, and understood, come join us. It's completely free, and the link is in the notes below. But for now, to every mom who's ever felt alone in this journey, welcome home.